I think we're going to go with taking advice from fitpros on social media. That sounds like the general idea of this topic here. So, a certain fit pro, very popular one, who doesn't deserve to be named, made a post about how you shouldn't do all these things and there are other things that you should be doing, right? So, let's give us some examples. They said you shouldn't do supersets. And you shouldn't do anything more than 15 sets in a workout. And you should do long rests. Short rests like a minute between sets. That's entirely too short. It'll sabotage all your progress. And don't do combination exercises. There's a whole list of stupid things that they told you. And I would like to point out that this is stupid because let's look at how some of the best athletes in the world train. Do you think Bill Kazmaier was weak? Do you think Bill Kazmaier sabotaged his progress? Well, let me tell you something. Bill Kazmaier has a post on his Instagram talking about how he did a back workout that was 49 sets. That's a little more than 15. That's weird. More than 15 sets. But this clearly said don't do more than 15 sets. It'll sabotage all of your progress. Well, let's take a look at Marius Pudzianowski. Marius Pudzianowski did a lot of volume. He did a lot of shit. And he would do crazy things like sets of 10 with only 1 minute rest between. He'd be doing like back squats with crazy, insane amounts of weight. 10 reps, 1 minute rest, 10 reps, 1 minute rest. You shouldn't do high rep sets either. But holy shit, if I didn't see a video of Brian Shaw repping out deadlifts. What's going on here? Sadrunas Savickas, he's doing all these high rep squats. I haven't seen him do any hip thrusts or, walking lunges or what's going on here? And he's hammering through these things, big compound lifts with big weights. What's going on? He's doing everything wrong. And then you have people like Robbie Robinson, who was big on supersets. Do you think Robbie Robinson sabotaged his progress because he would superset things like presses and pull-ups, squats and deadlifts? But no, according to fitpros, this will sabotage all of your progress. This is just like the other day, I came across some bullshit about GPP, and it's like, no, doing GPP will not sabotage your progress. I don't know where this comes from. These fitpros say the most ridiculous things, and they're always science-based, and this is what I find really interesting is you'll find these science-based people and they'll tell you, science-based, you only need 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, therefore you should never eat more than that. Hold on. You need a minimum of 1 gram per pound of body weight, therefore you should not eat more than that. So you're saying this is the minimum and you should not eat more than the minimum? I can't understand that. I think to myself, okay, if that's the minimum and your goal is to get bigger and stronger, you would want to eat more than the minimum. Yes? If the minimum is 225 pounds for a bench press, and you want to get bigger and stronger, I would assume that you would want to lift more than 225. You know what I mean? Does this make sense? I realize that this is not a great analogy there, but the point being that if the minimum is this, and your goal is to maximize, why would you do the minimum? I don't understand that. Hey, let's take it in a different direction. You want to be a Navy SEAL, and you see that the PT test has a minimum of 40 push-ups. Wouldn't you rather be able to do 120? The minimum is whatever. I don't care. I don't even know minimums anymore because you know what? I didn't focus on the minimums. I have no idea what the minimum run is or the minimum swim, despite having taken that test 1,000 fucking times, I have no idea what the minimums were because I never shot for the minimums. So I actually don't know what the minimums are. So let's assume that the minimum number of pull-ups is 15, because that sounds like that should be a minimum, but it's probably something like 8. Can you imagine showing up and saying, I want to be a Navy SEAL and doing less than 20 pull-ups? You don't shoot for the minimum. Like, hey, you have to run 1.5 miles. You should be running that in under 9 minutes. I don't know what the minimum is, but I assure you, you don't want to do the minimum on anything. So the minimum amount of protein to eat is this, therefore don't eat more than that. That's stupid. These social media fit pros give out some of the worst advice imaginable. And it doesn't really make any sense. So, guys like Bill Kazmaier did everything wrong. Jay Cutler did everything wrong. Mike O'Hearn does everything wrong. I hear Mike O'Hearn goes hard and rests like 1 minute between sets. He's really, people talk about his workouts are super fucking intense. No one can keep up with them. That's impressive. Hey, drugs or not, I don't give a shit, okay? Because I know someone's going to comment below and be like, Mike O'Hearn isn't natty. I don't fucking care. Whether you're on drugs or not on drugs, if you train hard, I respect you. I don't care. I've said this in the past. I don't care. Dave Tate used steroids. Big deal. I still listen to Dave Tate. Stan Everding. I still listen to Stan Everding. If you are intelligent, if you work hard, I can respect you. I don't care. We play different sports. That's how I look at it. As far as I'm concerned, okay, drug-free powerlifting versus enhanced powerlifting, they're two different sports. It's not powerlifting and powerlifting to me. That's like saying geared powerlifting versus raw powerlifting. There might as well just be two different sports, okay? That's how I see it. Maybe you don't see it that way, but that's how I see it. So natural bodybuilding versus enhanced bodybuilding, I consider them to be two different sports. Anyways, the point being here, these fit pros give out some of the worst takes and the worst advice. I saw another one talking about why warm-ups are a waste of time. There's always something stupid. Let me tell you something here. You are not going to find a study on individuals who weigh over 250 pounds with single-digit % body fat. Not going to find that. So the best you have, unfortunately, is the bro science. You don't have a study to turn to. You can't show me a study where you're like, so here's a study on 500 Olympia competitors who all weigh 275 pounds to 300 pounds of muscle with single-digit % body fats, and they eat 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. You're not going to find that. It doesn't exist. And you're not going to see a study on guys who have the level of strength of, say, Bill Kazmaier. And here's a study on 500 world's strongest man competitors who can all deadlift over 800 pounds. Here's how they train. You're not going to find that. It's just the reality of the situation. And I try to explain this to people. People think I'm anti-science because I point out the flaws or the limitations of a study. And there could be nothing further from being anti-science if you actually take the time to read a study and then point out the limitations of the study design. This is someone shared with me the other day this study where they were looking at whether or not bananas interfere with the absorption of polyphenols from blueberries. It's an interesting study. I'm not saying that it isn't. And so what you'll see is that, when they gave people the blueberries by themselves, they had a higher level of polyphenols in their urine and their blood than people who ate the bananas. But that doesn't mean anything to me, actually, because what that doesn't tell me is that, let me put it to you this way, if it's coming out in your urine, you're excreting it. So if I eat a whole bunch of blueberries and you find blueberries in my poop, did I actually absorb them? But if I eat a whole bunch of blueberries and you don't find them in my urine and my feces, then maybe I absorbed them, okay? But here we are taking a blood draw, and we're gonna say, oh, well, look, the blueberries had a higher blood concentration of polyphenols than the ones with the bananas. That doesn't mean anything to me either, though, because what now we have to look at is area under the curve. So if you feed me something and then take my blood at 30 minutes and it's elevated, but in the group consuming bananas, it wasn't elevated at 30 minutes, how do I know that it just didn't get absorbed over a longer period of time? It wasn't just a slower absorption rate. Does that make sense? So, like, let's just say I gave you 10 milligrams of a drug, and let's just call it drug X. I give you 10 milligrams of drug X, and at 30 minutes, there's 10 milligrams of that circulating in your blood, okay? But now I give you 10 milligrams of drug X along with filler Y, and filler Y slows down the absorption rate. So at 30 minutes, you only have 5 milligrams of it in your bloodstream. Yes, because filler Y slowed down the absorption. That doesn't mean that you don't still absorb the full 10 milligrams over time. This is like Adderall. They have Adderall, and then there's Adderall extended release. You still get the full 10 milligrams. It just releases slower. So we wouldn't expect to see the same peak concentration in your blood. And as I pointed out, if it's coming out in your urine, you're excreting it, you're not absorbing it. And so, like, when I point these things out, and I'm giving this example only because I'm illustrating the point that that is not anti-science to read a study, evaluate it, and then point out the limitations of the study or the flaws in the study design or the nuances of what might be missed. There is no perfect study. Every study is going to have something that you can't measure, or some flaw, or some exception, or some explanation that might explain the results, and you are going to find these things over time. If you know how to read a study, you will understand this. So back to our fitpros. Our fitpros take these studies as if they're gospel. Like, well, in this study they did X, Y, Z, and therefore this must be the only way. And it's like, well, no, not really. Because what you measured was, some factor over here. Like, we're measuring blood lactate levels or something. We're measuring cross-sectional area. This tells me nothing about other adaptations that are occurring. Are we increasing rate coding? I don't know. Have we stimulated the number of motor units? I don't know. You can gain strength without gaining size. There's a whole bunch of neurological adaptations that take place. So, like, we did this training program and it increased muscle size. Great. We did this training program and increased strength. Okay. Neither of those studies, though, would tell you something like, does that actually transfer to your sport? It should seem logical here. Let me just point out to you, typically the strongest guys on your football team aren't even playing. That guy who's like a third string offensive lineman, like, he's never going to get into the game, and he probably squats close to 1,000 pounds. He's a gym hero. Tom Brady, not an amazing gym performer, doesn't have a world record back squat, great football player. Sidney Crosby, amazing hockey player, not a world-class powerlifter. Alex Ovechkin, world-class hockey player, not a world-class weightlifter. The guys who have amazing lifts in the gym often are not the best players on the field. It's just the way it is. Like, ask anyone. Even as strong as he was, Brian Cushing, okay, didn't have some kind of world record-setting bench press test at the combine. I think Blaine Sumner still holds the record for that. Who would you rather have on your team, though? Would you draft Brian Cushing or would you draft Blaine Sumner? No offense to Blaine. He's an amazing athlete and he's very, very strong. But, I think even Blaine would admit to you, Brian Cushing is the one you would pick. Who would you rather pick? Would you rather have, Tom Brady? Would you rather draft Tom Brady? Or would you rather draft, I don't know, somebody else? I'm trying to think of a name of someone who, repped out on the 225 bench press, but Blaine Sumner's the only name that jumps to my mind. The point here, okay, you look at even basketball. Basketball has a bench press test. I think it's 185, and I think, like, was it Kevin Love did like 17 or 18 reps? That's not that impressive because there are other players who went to the, NBA combine thing and did far more than that, and you don't know their names. because they aren't great basketball players. They are good at lifting weights. And so you have to ask yourself, with these fit pros, they say this study over here did X, Y, Z, and it's like, does that even matter on the field? That's all I'm sharing for you guys. I'm just trying to point out these fit pros put out a lot of information. They make a lot of claims, they make a lot of statements. And then you look at people who are actually succeeding at a sport, and suddenly they're doing things that are completely different. You want to get huge? Train like a strong man. High rep deadlifts, short rest times. Yeah, it's like the complete opposite of what these fit pros tell you to do. And yet, strongman competitors are really crazy strong and really fucking jacked, actually. They have a ton of muscle mass. Might want to think about that for a bit.